I wanted to make a video about the general process I use for making these types of videos, which is not anything complicated at all, but I think that if anybody's interested in making videos at all, or making this type of go outside and talk type video, and just not knowing how to get started or what equipment you need, hopefully this could be helpful and kind of spur you along towards making your own. And it's very simple, and you can use a variety of different equipment. What I have is my 360 camera, which I'm using here, which is the video edits it out, but I have a stick along here, it's like a selfie stick with the camera on it. You could use any type of camera, and if you're out walking, you can hold the camera up like this, which is possible. I like to have it on something longer. It just feels a little bit more natural, and I think the angle's a little better to be further away. It's not just right up close on my face, and I feel less conspicuous by just having it out on something like this. I like the 360 camera just because I can edit the angles along as I go. Just in editing software afterwards, I can change the angles, get wider out, get closer in. I can, have it closer in on me, just kind of front facing. I can turn it around so it's kind of from my point of view, walking forward. There's a lot of options for it, which I like, and none of which I have to really deal with while I'm making the video. I just hold the camera up. I can edit all of that however I want later on. So it's a pretty versatile camera for this kind of thing, and I like using it for that. It's definitely not marketed as a vlog type camera. If you see videos people make or marketing for it, it's almost always kind of action sports related, like biking or snowboarding or something like that, which it definitely is good for, but I find a lot of just very practical use for it. This has a tripod on it as well, which you also can't see because it edits out the stick, but there's a tripod on it. You can just set it up, or on whatever camera you use, just set up the tripod somewhere. And this does have a microphone on it. I don't use the microphone. I record the audio separately. I have tried recording on this, but being outside, it just picks up all of the kind of ambient noise, which a lot of times sounds much louder on the camera's audio. Picking it up, just car sounds, construction sounds. I'm hearing a lot of that just in general around me, but it won't really come through just because I'm recording separately on another mic. So I'm gonna set this up over here. Some of these videos, if you've watched anything else I've done, sometimes I'll set it up somewhere and I'll just kind of find a spot that I feel that feels kind of scenic. So, I can just set it up right here. This tripod is not the best, so, ideally it would be a little bit more stable. And, I can set up the scene and just to stand over here and talk or whatever. I can move around. And, the camera's just staying stationary, so I can just edit the camera following me around, or edit it so it's zoomed out, so I'm just always in view walking around. So I have a little bit of leeway there. I don't have to, with another type of camera, I would need to make sure I have the camera and I'm setting up the scene and making sure that I'm staying in the bounds of it, so I'm always on camera. So, I set up here, I talk, I can take the camera and keep moving if I want. I like being able to do that just because I like, filming this stuff outside, but sometimes, it gets a little bit more crowded. There's not a lot of people out right now, but if, sometimes if I'm close to a walking path or something and people are coming by, it's nice to be able to kind of just pick up and keep moving and kind of move away from them or move in the opposite direction or whatever. And that just helps me personally, just kind of like self-consciousness wise, that, you know, if people are around and I feel like I'm kind of being overheard, I don't really mind being seen doing this, but I do feel kind of awkward if I'm like out talking and passing people and just kind of like talking to myself, talking to the camera. It feels a little awkward for me, and I just like the opportunity, the availability, I guess, of being able to set up somewhere or just be walking, or a combination of the two, like kind of how I'm doing right now. And that's the main thing. Those are some of the benefits of the 360 camera. You definitely don't need that. You can use a phone. You can just hold up a phone like that. So you can use any type of other external camera, hold it up. I've also used, trying to think of the name of it, gimbal. And you can find relatively cheap gimbals. A gimbal is just like, it keeps the camera level. So it's kind of like, it's on a stick or whatever. You know, I bought kind of cheap ones. It's basically just on a selfie stick. And I bought ones for a phone, and it just has, you know, it holds the phone in place, and then, you know, you turn it on and it just keeps the phone level as you walk. So there's not this, you know, shaky camera motion going on it. And so that works fine. You can use a gimbal with the phone, just like a regular selfie stick with the phone, or just like a tripod. It doesn't necessarily need to be a gimbal or something that's stable. Like this 360 camera I'm using is like has a self-stabilizing feature, which I like, so I don't really have to worry about really trying to keep it steady, or with a gimbal, it's the same kind of thing. It just makes it easier, so then I can focus more on just talking, which is the main point of the video, and I'm not really worried about trying to hold the camera really steady, or, you know, making sure I'm just walking on a level path or whatever like that. So those are some options. And then with audio, I think, and this is a cheap method, you don't have to use this. You can use a camera audio. It's just sometimes kind of hit or miss depending on the noise outside, unless you're in a really quiet area. And I have we'll get up closer so you can see it. I have a little clip-on mic. You can just buy a lav mic, and this is a wireless one, and I have it connected to my phone, which is just, you know, it has a little plug-in on the receiver on my phone. You can get any type of free audio recording software on your phone. I think all phones just have a built-in one already, like a voice memos type thing you can use. I use Motive Audio, it's MOTIV, which is free. And I'm not saying that I prefer that one over others. It was just a free one that I found and used, and it works fine, so I'm just using that. I'm sure it works just as well as any other free one that you can find. So there's that. It doesn't have to be a wireless one. I used to use a wired lav mic, so I would just have it plugged into my phone in my pocket, and then, you know, it's just a little wire clip-on mic on your shirt, and you know, that works just as well. I think with the wire, that works fine with if you have a selfie stick or a gimbal or something, some way to hold the camera out away from you. I think the wire doesn't work as well for that. And if you're using a microphone plugged into the camera, like if you're using your phone as a camera on a selfie stick and you use a wire, I don't think that works as well, because it's just, you're gonna have your phone out here, or if you have a camera and you're plugging a microphone directly into the camera, which is an option, it's just an extra wire out here that, you know, might get kind of tangled as you go, or it might, I don't know, you know, it could get like pulled out if you get bumped or something like that. So It's still an option, but it looks a little bit messier to you because then the wire is just going to be in frame of the camera. It's still an option, but these wireless ones are pretty much the same price. I've just found, you know, pretty cheap versions of both of these. I think just between $10 and $20. So also cheap, and that works when you just have a camera on a stick or a gimbal, and then you can just plug that into your phone and record the audio separately, which I like. Now I haven't tried this, but I think this would also work if you're using your phone as a camera, which would just be probably the easiest option if you don't have another camera and don't want to spend money on that. You know, most likely you have a phone that can take video, and I think that you could have the phone out on a stick and have the wireless mic like I have plugged in, have that clipped on your shirt, so you're getting the audio, you don't have the wire in the way, and you don't have to, you know, get another camera to use. I think that would work. I'm not positive. But anyway, that's pretty much it for that. And the way I will start these videos, so that I basically just have two parts of editing. I have the video part and then the audio part. And when I start the video, I'll like snap near the microphone or clap or something, so that when I'm looking at the waveform and I'm editing, there's a noticeable spike, and I can visually see on the video where I'm snapping, even if the camera audio isn't picking it up that well. I can see myself snapping, and I can see on the waveform and hear it, of course, pretty clearly. So it makes it just pretty fast to just line up the audio and the video. And then when I'm editing, those are just the two layers. And then I will usually just take the camera audio off. I'll just, you know, I'm not sure how it does on other programs. I use Adobe Premiere, but you just unlink the audio from the video. I'll you know, make sure the audio is synced up, and I can also, you know, I sync it up from the snaps too, and I also just kind of double check that my, you know, mouth movement is the words that I'm saying in the video. And you can also sync up the mic audio to the camera audio, which will be a little bit quieter with your voice, but you can still hear it, and just make sure it's overlapping correctly. There's not like a weird delay that you'd be able to hear. So it's pretty simple, just setting up the audio like that. Delete the camera audio, so then I just have the camera video file and then the mic audio, which is being recorded into my phone, and I just send it to my computer where I'm editing, or, you know, keep it on your phone if you're editing on a phone. And that's pretty much it. Then you can just add, you know, I like to just kind of do these all in one take. I like the style of that, and it's just less work editing later on. But, you know, you can edit however you want, you know, make, you know, multiple clips throughout, you know, cut out some dead time or whatever, and you know, add whatever visual effects you want. And I can make another video about that where I'm kind of on my editing software and you can see exactly what I'm doing, but that doesn't really matter. This is just kind of the basic format for just getting the audio and video in. And you know, that's pretty much the whole process. A lot of times I'll put music on too, so that's just another layer. I'll just, you know, find whatever songs I'm going to use. There is a lot of resources for like free, copyright-free music to use. Like YouTube has a big library of it, or, you know, there's plenty of other sites that you can just search for that's just, you know, license-free music that you can just use, or whatever, you know, put whatever on. A lot of times I'll put like video game music on here just because I like that music in general, and I have more of a knowledge of it, just so I can, you know, have the vibe that I want, and I can already just kind of pick out some songs versus going to an audio library and trying to find certain ones that I've never heard before to fit the mood. It just takes a little bit more effort, but, you know, you can use whatever you want for that. I think the main thing with music is, and this is not at all like a authoritative opinion on this. I'm not really sure, but I think just not using like licensed music, like I don't even know what to call it, just like, you know, pop music or whatever, using that as a broad category, pop music, just like regular artist music that's made just to be music, that's going to be licensed and kind of like trip up the, you know, the copyright check when you upload these videos. Anyway, that's just what I do. You can kind of look into that process yourself. If you even want to put music on, you can just not have music at all, and that's also fine. I like watching these videos without music on them too. It feels kind of, I guess, a little bit more intimate, like you're just kind of almost like you're sitting there talking to somebody. You know, there's not just music playing in the background in general life conversations. And that works too, and I do that sometimes. And sometimes I do that just purely out of laziness, because I just want to get the video out, and I don't want to put anything extra on it, and I don't want to find music and, you know, set the audio levels for that. If you are putting music on and you're talking audio, again, you can mess with this yourself. This is not an authoritative view, but I'll tend to set the mic volume to about -6 dB, and, you know, maybe peaking a little bit above that at maybe like -4, but try and have it around -6 dB. And then the music I'll put between -18 and 24. And depending on the type of music, sometimes it has instruments that kind of like pop out more, so I'll want that to be a little bit lower in the mix. But in general, I'll just put all the music on, I'll set it, kind of like select everything, set it to negative between, you know, 24 and 18. I don't actually know if you're supposed to call it negative dB or just dB. So obviously I don't really know what I'm talking about, but between 18 and 24, you know, dB, I'll put the music. And I feel like that puts it at a nice volume where it's not really gonna be going over the voice at all. Sometimes I've had music that's louder, and I've heard that back from people, that the music was too loud, where it feels okay for me when I'm editing it, but then just because I already know what I'm saying and I'm not really focusing on my voice that much, but if somebody else is listening and they don't really know what I'm saying, then the music can just be like a little bit too loud and kind of cover up the voice. So those are the levels that I set it at. And, you know, hey buddy. Oh, there he goes. Hey. Oh, you're good. Anyway, that's pretty much the whole process for that. Anyway, I hope that helps. If you are, you know, interested in making these types of videos, of course, you can always just do it indoors in a more controlled environment, and it's a little bit, I think, less intensive, because you probably don't really need an external mic necessarily. You can probably just set up a camera somewhere. You don't even need a tripod. Just, you know, prop it up somewhere, film yourself. You're in the privacy of your home, so kind of like the awkwardness of just being outside and like maybe having a wet dog run through here and trip you up won't happen. And I think that's also you know, very normal thing to do. Lots of people make videos like that, and maybe that could be a good way to start if you feel kind of self-conscious, which I definitely do, and I still do, and I've made, you know, 100 of these. Yeah, you can just start inside, don't have to worry about extra equipment. But anyway, that's been my process. That's how I do it. It's all pretty easy as far as editing, you know, when I make vlogs or other things that I'm using lots of clips. it takes so long to edit, and I don't like doing that, and that's why I don't film them a lot of times, even though I do like vlogs. I like watching them, and I like having a finished product of mine that I can kind of watch a little segment of my life on. That's fun, but just the extra work is kind of overwhelming sometimes. But this is a very short method in comparison. So anyway, that's how I do that. Hope this helps anybody interested, and let me know if you have any questions about anything. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all you need if you want to do make them outside. Just a camera, a lav mic, a phone, or something that you can record the audio into, maybe a selfie stick or a gimbal or something to hold the camera up on if you want to have that angle and you don't want to have to worry about holding it up with your arm. Or just a place to prop it up, which I don't really have here, but if you're out, I could just be like over here on the wall. If I didn't have a tripod, just set up the camera over there, it's propped up, set the scene, whatever. All right, that will be all, I suppose.